Question paper of yesterday, mini test number 6. So how was your test yesterday? You were able to do it? कुछ लोग कर लेते हैं, कुछ लोग नहीं करते हैं, तो they compensate it by the quality of the answer they write, whatever marks they are writing, and that is not too less actually. ऐसा नहीं कि 150 का अच्छे से लिख के आओगे सोचोगे 100 नंबर आएगा, ऐसा नहीं होता है. But it should not be too less. Around at least 220 attempts should be there. 220 to 230 attempts should be there. So that is the only leeway you have. But people are able to write that. 230, 250, they are able to attempt that. You may not want to believe in that, but they are actually able to write that. You will also reach there after some time. Can you give me the paper? I think they will take some time. Also. So we'll start by this. We'll discuss the questions from the first part and the brainstorming. How many of you did that? All the 12 questions? Here only or at home? Here only? Okay. Home. Okay. So nice. I wanted to cover so many things, specifically some questions from this year's paper. That is why I thought that I will give you these. But we will discuss these questions along with the case study sessions. The first part we will discuss today itself, okay? The 6 questions that are there. So the first question is, the unexamined life is not worth living, Socrates. I think that the question is waiting to be asked in essay, okay? This can be given in essay anytime. Where is CS Saab? CS Saab is not here? Okay. Online also, Kanak, are you there? Okay. I remember only those people who are not present in the class. You see the irony? Okay. So, unexamined life is not worth living. Okay. So, what have you discussed in this question? This question talks about, what are the keywords? Self-reflections, introspection. Yes. Intellectual integrity. Tremendously well. Nice. Then? Eudaimonia is the ultimate goal of the human life. Very nice. And mindfulness, yes. Mindfulness is a means towards that. It will allow you to introspect, yes. Now you are doing good actually. I mean, the way you are responding, I am mistaken. I am being too optimistic. Now you are doing good. You are responding now. Very nice. So, what is the relevance to you? What is the relevance to you? How does it actually help you? Coming out of allegorical. Brilliant. Nice, Udit. Yes? How does it help you actually? So basically, yes, you start from individuals, that how it will help individuals to change their attitude, to know what are their wrong assumptions, wrong belief pattern, and consequently they can change their attitude, character, and everything. So many examples we have already discussed. Ashoka, Valmiki Rishi. So many examples we have discussed, that how they introspected their life and later on changed their attitude and everything. Where were you? For last 2-3 classes, you are not here. Home. Okay. Everything all right? Where is your home? Jammu. Why have you come back then? Air quality is very poor. I think it will be better in Jammu. Okay. Unexamined. So, the examination perspective from the individuals. Yes, you talk about that how it will help individuals in terms of attitude enhancement, in terms of, and you can link emotional intelligence with that also, because that talks about self-awareness and everything. How many of you did that? Again, sort of feeling proud. Okay. So, after that, this examination is also important from the perspective of organizational perspective, because if they want to live longer, then they must also examine themselves. So you can talk about that. Yes, you can talk about that. So how they will be auditing themselves, they will be doing the risk assessment and everything. Nations also, you can talk about that also. Understood? So broadly you will talk about from that perspective and how they will help you. And you can talk about the various important case studies when different societies, individuals, how they, yes, qualitative aspect of utilitarianism also you can talk about, same thing. Okay, so you have lot of content to write in this question, and let us just discuss that. Okay, so this is what you will talk about, that strengthening of, if you are not examining your life, how it will harm you. That is another way of structuring your answer. How, if you examine your life, what good will happen. If you don't examine your life, how it is unworthy of living, because you will be straining your prejudices only. You will be acting without reason, like FOMO, consumerism. You just want new phone because there is a new phone in the market. You may not need it. So that is not examination and everything. Then you will not be able to distinguish between good and bad until you are actually, judging the things. You talk about Sarpanchpati. Many of the people believe that Sarpanchpati is a good thing. They actually believe in the tradition of it. That is actually the right way to do it. And that is not the right actually, because they are not examining the things. You talk about how different customs and traditions, they have lost relevance, and if you don't examine them, they will continue only. Understood? So you talk about that. Then we are no better off than animal. How many of you wrote this argument, animalistic existence? Very nice, very nice, very nice. Okay, then the ultimate growth of society, ultimately, the fundamental duty that is there, from duty perspective, that how you will grow only when you examine yourself. Fundamental duty is there, that you have to grow. How many of you know that there is such kind of fundamental duty under Article 51? How many of you have quoted that? Article 51A? Very nice. Or whenever you are writing fundamental duty, quote that article. Article 51A. Very nice. And then similarly for the life of the institution. Can you see, I am not just writing institutions here, I am writing life of the institutions, because that is how the question is, life. Okay, so if you want to extend your life, if you want to have a meaningful life from individual perspective, then organizational perspective also, they can be more meaningful, their existence can be more meaningful if they can just simply, examine themselves, because the autocratic institutions, they will simply decay. So audit, examination, efficiency, economic effectiveness, work culture, everything will be there. Performance management, we have discussed that. And then, it helps you in taking control of your life, because you become more emotionally intelligent and everything. You find purpose in your life, like Buddha, Bhagat Singh, whatever example you want to give, and how it has helped actually individuals and society in terms of Sati Pratha, untouchability, LGBT, right to privacy. All these are examples where examination has led to something really great. Understood? Another important aspect is that statement is saying not worth living. So there is some counter perspective with it. If you wish, you can write that also. The perspective is that human life, it is beautiful in itself. We cannot judge human life with respect to some outcome. It is a beautiful human life that is end in itself. So that part you can talk about, that becoming too much examination oriented can actually lead to you becoming cynical. That you are cynical and you are not enjoying your life, and you are actually finding fault everywhere. So that is how it can harm you. And life is not just about examination and improvement, it is also about living your life, enjoying what you already have, being grateful. So that is a bigger perspective also that you can involve. If you write that, you should not write that more than 50% or 20% of the answer. It should be limited. If you don't write that is also fine. Okay, but in essay, if this quotation comes, then definitely write about that, because there you will need more dimensions. So that is what you can write, that a beautiful human life is an end in itself. What about the people, mentally challenged people, for example, who cannot examine themselves? What about the people who are grappling with survival? They do not have something to eat. Can you judge them that how they will examine themselves, because they will not have time and everything to judge themselves, and not desirable also, because life experience, being with family and everything, many things contribute to human life, not just examination, and it can make you cynical also. Okay, so that is what you can talk about. Of course, this will not take too much of space in your answer. I included that from this perspective because I believe in essay paper, essay topic. This is a potential essay topic. So this aspect in essay will take 1.5 to 2 page, 1.5 page at least, okay, when you are writing from that perspective. Understood? So that is what you can write. In conclusion, you can always discuss how society we should encourage open communication, examination, tolerance, democracy, role of intellectual integrity, everything. How many of you are really satisfied with your answer in terms of dimensions, depth, keywords? Everyone? And who is totally dissatisfied? Totally dissatisfied. People have reduced. Oh, you have examined, or you have not examined. The people who are not dissatisfied. Okay. क्या problem हुआ आपको? We have discussed this theme so many times. This part is, I mean, if you have not written that, then you should not judge yourself too harshly. That is all right. But what about this? I mean, have you included institutional perspective, at least in 1 or 2 lines? Have you included all these parts? That is what is important, dimensions wise. This is what I want to know. I'm asking you. Arguments नहीं दिया. You should do that. Online walo, so how is your answer? This answer? How is your answer? How is your answer? Wrote well, very nice. Now you are writing good. I mean, the way you are responding, and I'm not saying that just to pacify you. You know that, I mean, that thing does not matter to me. So you are actually writing well. Many of you are writing well. Very nice. So shall we move to the next question? You want to take photo? Please do that. If you wrote well, very nice.
So in the second part, can you write the importance of an examined life, or it will be the same?
No, definitely. This is importance of examined life. That contrasting perspective you can always have. That if you don't examine, what bad will happen? Basically, it will be a life that is not worthy of living. And if you examine, what good will happen? And you can choose multiple dimension, any of these segments, because it will be very difficult to have those one dimension both the part. Understood? So yes. Organizational perspective, at least 1 or 2 lines you can add, if not lot many dimensions. You added? Pragya, you added there? How is your answer? Good only. But your faces are same only. Same look is there at your face. It has come with practice, sir. It took us 24 classes to reach where we are today. Okay, so let us just move to the next question. Ethics is knowing the difference between what you have the right to do and what is the right thing to do. We have discussed that already. It is about which right versus right? Yes, it is about righteousness versus entitlement. Yes, the something that you are entitled to. You are entitled to skip the classes, but that may not be the right thing to do. Yes, so that is what it is. Done? So let us just go back to this question. Ethics is knowing the difference between what you have. So it is talking about basically the difference that is there in entitlement and the righteousness that is there, and the perspective would be that whether you are misusing your rights, basically your entitlements, that will be the wrong thing. Whether a right duty vacuum is there, whether you are not doing your duty that is in correspondence with the right, so that is the perspective, rights and responsibilities. And then whether you are viewing right as an end in themselves, that this is something that I will be doing it no matter what happen. Okay, and then at times individual rights are in contravention to the societal good. You talk about the property rights, at times it goes against societal good, because at times your land may be required for developmental projects, something like that. Animal rights is there. You go for vermin killing, you are killing animals to maintain the sanctity of the entire ecosystem. And then privacy, your privacy may be violated because of national security concerns. So basically that is the perspective that is there. So how many of you wrote this perspective? This individual right versus overall right, societal right. Very nice, very nice. Okay, yeah, that perspective only. So that is what you need to write. The misusing the right, you talk about governor, position of a speaker, how it has been misused. The road accident example we have given, the USA withdrawing from the Paris climate deal, it is their right, whether they want to participate or not, but it is not the right thing to do because they have historical responsibility, they are shying away from that. Then having the right and end in itself, like, gun culture that is there in the USA, it is an example of that, that people are taking their rights too seriously as if it is the end in itself. Property rights, land reforms, provocative uses of freedom of expression that is there, and then right versus common good, the privacy argument, developmental projects argument and everything. And the rights, you do not get right just from the tradition, from the law perspective, but traditions also give you some rights. They also give you some entitlements like patriarchy, like sati, and as per society, it may be the right thing to do, but it is not the right thing to do. And those are the examples that you can give. Understood? Understood or not? Like dowry is the example of that for you. That even though you feel like that, sir, mera to man nahi hai, but papa keh rahe hain. So it will still be a wrong thing to do. Understood? So that is the point. Talk about modern day legal silence also. The example of so many things. And right perspective actually at times can ruin private relationships, because if that a perspective, apart from that, another perspective is from the private relationship perspective. That private relationships are, if you have this righteous perspective all the time, the perspective of entitlement in any relationship, I am telling you, it will ruin that relationship. Because family is not just about enforcing your entitlements all the time, it is about giving and taking. It is about sacrifice. At times you need to forego something that belongs to you, that you have some entitlement for, specifically in the context of entitlements. You talk about mother and father, they do lot many sacrifices. So those sacrifices, they are sacrificing so many things that they are entitled to. A mother is, of course, always entitled to pursue their profession. Father is entitled to do so many things, but both of them, together they do so many sacrifices for the betterment of their child, even though they are entitled for something else. So that is something that the perspective that you can have. You see, especially in this era, in this liberal era, the sons and daughters, they are so much concerned about their rights. So much so that they view their family environment from the perspective of their rights only, that this is what we are entitled to, this is what we shall get. And they don't think about the responsibilities. They don't think about, at times you need to give away something that belongs to you. So that perspective is very important when it comes to relationships. Okay, so that is a very unique dimension that is there. You may include that also, because ethics in private relationship is the syllabus topic that is there. So you may just remember it and use this in another quotation. Anyone who talked about it? Anyone? Love, very nice, brilliantly done. I mean, see, that's the beauty of it. So if any 2 or 3% have reached here, then I think my job is done, because very difficult dimension to think of in the actual exam conditions. But if you are able to do that, kudos to you. Very nice. That in love, human relationships, entitlement perspective does not work. Understood? How many of you are understanding this argument? Yes? So, and at the same time, the perspective is that, however, the rights are also equally important. The ethical egoism perspective, that in the name of greater good, we should not always submerge rights. Rights protects human dignity. That tells you that people are human. That you should respect them as such, and something like that. Understood? समझ में आ गया? Second counter perspective, are you understanding? अरे आवाज भी निकल सकती है मुंह से, गूंगे थोड़े ना हो. समझ में आ गया? बस आप समझते रहो सर. Energy conservation is there. You please note it. Marital rape is an example of that. Yes, but there you talk about customary perspective. I mean, it is not as such a legal right of men, to do that. Of course, legal silence is there, but it is not sort of entitlement. You talk from customary perspective, that through customary perspective, man is entitled, with respect to that. So because rights, we have discussed that certain rights, they get recognized by other agency, like state, by society. So right is about entitlement. If someone is recognizing that right, then it is a right. Society recognizes man's control over wife. It is wrong thing to do, but still it is a right. So if he is enforcing that right, then it is a bad thing. That is what it is. Understood or not? I am not justifying that, okay, before you question me on that. Understood? Vishesh is here? Vishesh is also not here. Okay. Shall we change it? So next question is, yes, I follow this only. This was actually a descriptive question. Okay, I mean how crisis of ethical values in modern times is traced to a narrow perception of the good life. Simply divide the answer what narrow perception of good life is and how it is leading to the crisis of ethical values, and the other part, that what will be the broader conception of good life and how it can promote everyone's well-being and ethical aspect. Understood? And how many of you quoted the debate between qualitative and quantitative aspect of pleasure here? That is exact same dimension that is there. You quoted that? How many of you did? Very nice. कितने लोगों को नहीं आया दिमाग में? आया ही नहीं. Why? I mean, it was there for you to see. The same thing we have discussed. आपने लिखा? No. Why? This was very easy. Because that is what the Mill is saying to Bentham, that you are having very narrow perception of pleasure. You must understand the qualitative aspect. The same thing they have asked. Understood? So this is what narrow perception of good life is all about. That sensual pleasure and hedonism. That is basically you are driven by desires all the time. So you will be practicing consumerism, sexual assault, and everything. You will be too materialistic in a way that you would like to get money at all cost, even though you want to sacrifice. We already discussed that worthiness of success depends upon what you need to give up, something like that. Human trafficking, selfishness versus others, selfishness. The road accidents example is there, where we just leave people on their own. Holding of essential medicine during COVID, because we believe that we need to save ourselves first, even though at the expense of other people, even though you may not need those medicine at this point of time, still people were holding, because that is what the narrow perception of good life is all. The sustainable aspect, how many of you wrote that? Sustainable perspective? That should come. Environmental perspective should come with this. कितने लोगों को नहीं चमका बिल्कुल भी? Sustainable perspective, environment perspective in their answers. How many of you? Why? भूल गया. It should have come to you. Okay, then the same thing. Quick success versus lasting success, recruitment scams or the paper leaks that are there, the same example. Quantity over quality, something that we have discussed through Mill and Bentham only. Profit over health, like fake medicines, that is there. Right over duty. We can discuss so many things. Yes, this part we have already discussed to some extent in different context. And then what will be the broader perception of life? Here you can talk about how you are practicing selflessness. Same examination of life will give you broader purpose of life. Dharma guiding other principles of human life, artha and kama. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Four orientations are there. So a sense of dharma should guide your other senses of artha and kama. Welfare of others. Virtue ethics, basically that you want to become someone. You want to become a virtuous person. That is what you can discuss. Unexamined life is not worth living. Same thing we can talk about, because when you are not examining the life, then you will have narrow perception only all the time. Yes, for that aspect you can talk about, and you will be more aware of your duty if you just have broader perspective of your life. The soldiers, today 26/11, the anniversary of that terrorist attack. The Tokaram Kambale example I often give, the epitome of fortitude, courage in adversity. And that example actually is a great example, great example, because that was his perspective about, because he did not see his life in terms of living for many years. He saw his own life in terms of contribution that he was making to society and the profession. And that is why, he hold on to the barrel of the Kasab and helped people to catch him alive. That is your perspective, how exactly you are looking at it. Perspective towards your profession, for example, civil services. Many of you wants to perhaps go into the services just for the sake of it, because you want to enjoy the fame that comes with it. But that is not the right perspective. Right perspective is something different. Okay, so that is what duty. You will have a better sense of duty if you have broader perception of your life. And that is what we can talk about. How many of you discussed that part? Broader perception. So that is rather an easy question. So how many of you are satisfied with respect to 50 to 60% of the answer? Totally dissatisfied people? Totally dissatisfied? Who all responsible? Crisis for ethical value. ये काउंटर कैसे है? ये तो एक्सप्लेन ही खाली कर रहे हो बस. Who all are responsible? हाँ. नहीं काउंटर आप कह रहे थे ना, तो काउंटर तो नहीं है ये. You can talk about the factors that because of LPG reform, LPGs, and because of too much competition, urbanization, there is narrow perception of good life. That you can always discuss. जिंदगी लंबी नहीं बड़ी होनी चाहिए. Yes, this is what you can write. Very nice. Yes, Ria is right only. Understood? Understood? Yes. What are those regions? So that's what it is. The narrow perception of good life is basically your value system only. And that will be ethics. That is what he is asking you to do. Understood? Online वालों समझ में आ गया आपको? Vishesh, how was your answer? Okay, nice. So the next question, the application of AI as dependable source of input for rational decision making is a debatable issue. I mean, easy questions only. So from here, you must talk about, see, AI actually thrives on data. Yes, so you can criticize this in terms of, first of all, you understand what is rational decision making. What is rational decision making? Decision that is based on facts, cost benefit analysis. That should be part of your introduction. That administrative rational decision making involves consideration of alternatives, evaluation of those alternatives through cost benefit analysis, and then taking decision based on facts. AI has been employed in that regard. Okay, so that should be your introduction, because these keywords must be there in the introduction: cost benefit analysis, rational decision making, and facts. Okay, understood? So now AI is used to make this process more efficient, so that you can just generate and process a lot of data, so that you are able to, yes, AI enabled CCTV camera. This is a great example of that, how you are monitoring and everything. Understood? So yes, AI will help you in that. That is one thing. So now how you have to criticize that? No, challenges are there. That is a debatable issue. Now look at the question, application of AI as a dependable source of input. So basically, when we are making the decision, we cannot always rely on AI as a dependable source of input in terms of decision making. When I am making the decision as a leader, I cannot always rely on the conclusion from AI. That is what the question is. In earlier version of this question through UPSC, it was technology in place of AI. The same question UPSC is asked. So now my answer, how will I divide my answer? I will divide my answer first by highlighting the limitation of this process, that how I cannot always rely on AI, because AI will have algorithm bias, AI will demand lot of clean data, that data may not be possible, and data governance, I mean, lot many loopholes are there, cyber attacks are there, so many issues are there, so we cannot always rely on AI. And then there's a limitation of technology also. In general, limitation of technology, that it cannot perhaps capture human issues, human emotions, and various customary aspects, with respect to that regard. For example, a pure rational perspective will tell the bureaucrat that there should be the developmental project here, and even though no environmental consequences there, just remove environmental consequences, because that is tangible, anyone can measure it. But the bureaucrat will say that this place, the tribal, this place has been inhabited by tribals, this particular hill, and we should have this developmental project. But the tribals are saying that we have our ancestor living in this hill, the Niyamgiri case I'm talking about. Now, there is no rationality from their perspective. Whether ancestors are living there or not, you cannot verify it. No matter whatever amount of machine intelligence you employ, no matter you employ a lot of AI models, they will never be able to verify whether their ancestors lives there or not. And that is the problem with technology. Technology cannot capture anything. Does not matter whatever the level of technology is. So that is a perspective that you can invoke, that is a limitation of any technology. In this case it is AI, that it may not capture all the aspect of human life, for example, belief pattern. And their government went by the PISA and everything, and Gram Sabha ruled against it. Understood? So that is a perspective that you can always involve, that it will have limitations. So that is how you can arrive at a far better, more number of dimensions into this question. That first dimension is that using AI, it is not reliable because inequality, digital divide is there, data integrity is not there, data transparency is lacking because of so and so forth, algorithm bias is there, and constraints are also there, because at times you require decision to be made instantly, like disaster management. So you may not have AI ready for you because it requires a lot of data to feed and then give you judgment. At times you need to go by your intuition only, something we already discussed in the context of objective decision making. And then there can be limitation of the technology. For example, PDS and biometric example, the hiring platform algorithm bias that was there in the case of Amazon, you can talk about. Intuition expertise is something that cannot always come, and then the counter perspective would be, this will take 60 to 65% of the answer, but the second part should always talk about positive also, how you can actually use AI in the age of Internet of Things. You actually have a lot of data to process and then actually come to the right conclusion. Okay, so that is now here you have a lot many dimensions to write how AI can be helpful in various aspects, and then you can talk about the way forward, that is basically the technological ethics or digital ethics that should guide the development, deploy, and usage of artificial intelligence. So how many of you use this particular keyword, technological ethics, something like that, in the conclusion? And some keywords, probably some keywords from the GDPR regulations also you could have invoked. How many of you did that? Beneficence, malfeasance, any of the such principles you could have quoted here. How many of you discussed the positive side of the AI? At least 30-35% of the answer. Nice. And I think this part is easy. This part is easy. So when I am writing this part, just look at this, how we can generate more number of dimension. When I am writing this part, I am criticizing, see, I am just breaking everything. I am criticizing technology itself, that is limitation of technology. I am criticizing rational decision making because these points are from the objectivity. If you can just see that these points are from the objectivity, that not everywhere you can have rational decision making, because at times you do not have data, time, constraint, capacity, all these things are there. Understood? So that is what perhaps you can write.
But can you also add that AI cannot be held accountable because the decisions taken by AI cannot be held accountable for its decisions. Suppose AI took a decision to do something. We can't,
That perspective you can write in the conclusion that ultimately AI is a tool and ultimately humans are deciding on that. That is what you need to write.
तो criticism नहीं आएगा that accountability किस पे जाएगी?
Accountability AI पे कैसे चली जाएगी?
क्योंकि AI ने suppose को decision लिया to take a project somewhere और अगर वो fail हो गया project या किसी की loss of life हुआ.
So what is AI? AI is an IS officer. I mean, who is taking that decision? What is AI? Is any physical thing that is there whom you can perhaps hold accountable? So it is not automated that AI will have the decision whether we should have this uranium project or not. If we have that, I mean, after that someone should sign the file and that person will be held responsible, and that is a perspective you can talk about here. Ultimately AI is only a tool. Science with humanity, all that concern you can talk about. Ultimately humanity will be held responsible with respect to usage and deployment of the technology. So that is, and for that we need technological ethics. Understood? So how many of you, I mean, were able to answer this question to your satisfaction, more or less? Dissatisfied? Totally dissatisfied? Okay. You're dissatisfied? Okay.
Sir, is job loss a part of potential of job loss? Is that an ethical concern?
Now, potential of job loss is different. That is the consequence of AI. That is a different story altogether. Here you are talking about when you are making the decision, how AI is helping you. It is talking about that. So it is mostly in terms of processing the data, telling you this is what you need to do, something like that. Based on certain observable pattern, it is telling you something like that. Yeah, that's what I used, constraint. Bavarian bureaucracy, like it may not be able to capture emotions. I mean, like that, AI may not be able to capture that, may not be. That's what you need to write. Yes. And belief pattern also. Relying on AI is against virtue of critical thinking. No, Vishesh, we cannot say that because AI will help you in terms of filtering so many inputs, so much of data processing, so much of data in such little time. So you cannot always say that. No. I mean, it is actually helping you. What is against virtue ethics is that you are delegating your decision making to the AI. That is perhaps will go against it in a way that if you are not sure, the principle of malfeasance was there. That unless you are sure about the decision making, you cannot just leave everything to AI. The same driverless car concept that is there, that we are not having driverless car because we are not very sure about it. Why not equal weightage for merits and demerits? Because the question is worded like that only, that is why. If suppose question is worded in very positive sense, then perhaps we will say more positive thing. Not as reliable means limitation only. Not as reliable means limitation only. That you cannot perhaps rely on it all the time. Please note it. The previous question, have you noted? See, this question I have given many examples because here you will see lot of questions. So you just collect all these examples and use them. The same question of worthiness of success, unexamined life, lot of overlap is there. So you should reduce that. I mean, you should remember that, sorry. Understood? Ji?
Usually you start with the arguments for A, then you can go for against A, because you go first write the negative part. The rational decision making?
If you start with positive and then you write negative, then again you have to write positive only. And it will be, that is why the understanding language of the question is negatively worded. So when I'm starting with negative, then I'm talking positive, and then I'm suggesting way forward is better flow. Done? Done? We can employ more argument from the artificial intelligence that we discussed, in the technical ethics. We can employ more arguments from there. Done? Okay, so let us look at this question. This is here, yes. Not all corruption is bad, something that you like, and something that you believe. That therefore the concept of good corruption has gained traction in certain public discourse, critical analysis. You understand the background of this question? That small of corruption is good corruption. Yes, Shreyaji? Small bribery is good thing. Yes, it's like at times we can have cheat meals, something like that. Okay? So when you start this question, you must start with the context, that why it has been argued. How many of you provided that context? In terms of efficiency, resource allocation, in terms of just, motivating people or acting grease in the system, So that is the start that will be there. 20-25% will come for that. And then you have to criticize it tooth and nail, that we don't believe in it. Okay? I mean, that was for your understanding, but we don't believe in it. That is what you need to write, even though you believe in it. Okay? Understood? So the primary arguments will be, Arey bhai, don't look here, look here. What is the primary argument? Right means then? Slippery slope. Slippery slope, very good argument, yes. Then? Rule of law. Everything. So basically, the slippery slope, road public trust, long-term consequence, deontology against deontology, something like credibility crisis. It is like wealth without work. You are getting something without. How many quoted you? Wealth without work. Corruption means wealth without work. Just link corruption and Gandhiji. They should come together. Wealth without work and Gandhiji. Understood? I'm not saying in that context Gandhiji was having wealth without work. No, Gandhian sin. Okay, Gandhian sin you should write. Okay, whenever you are talking about that. Okay, so yes, pig satisfied is a brilliant argument, Vishes. Brilliant argument. That only a pig will be satisfied by that. Brilliant argument. See, I'm very pleased. All of you have progressed a lot. You can take pride in that. Yes, brilliant. So that is what you can write. Okay, and then real world example. China is there. China example is that example that it compromised on ethical aspect with respect to development and everything, and compare that to India and how China is now grappling with environmental crisis and everything. So much of inequality is there. You go to China, you will see that many urban centers, it is quite developed, but you go to the roads, the countryside, they are rather very, very poor. So that is what it is. So they focused on that economic development at some places only. So that is, and then this is what is necessary in this answer, that see, whatever you want to achieve, efficiency, development, resource allocation, through that, we can achieve all of it. And while being ethical, if we just do this, that we must reform institutions, we should streamline processes, technological innovation that is required. You can give the case study of DBT and etc. How many of you did that? Oh, brilliant. How many of you? आपने नहीं क्या कीर्ति? And that is, see, it is telling you that little corruption is good because you can do something good with it. Okay, you can perhaps be more efficient, promote development, something like that. So a counter perspective will not just be criticizing this approach. It will be telling someone that you can negate the negatives of the ethical approach through something else. नहीं समझ में आया? Suppose I tell you, democracy and development do not go hand in hand. Suppose this is the argument that is a similar argument is there. Democracy and development do not go hand in hand. Yes. And I start with this, that why it is called, because decision making is slow, consensus building is slow and everything. And then I'm giving argument, no, but democracy and development actually go hand in hand. I give so many arguments. Then perhaps my answer should provide ways that how democracy and development actually go hand in hand. Probably I will talk about decentralization and something we have already discussed. So that is what you wrote this part, very necessary. So this is very necessary because here we are talking about actual actionable step. Okay, so that is actually the demand of the question that is there. Heading will be, I mean, heading will be a bit more actually. Heading will be not ways to curb corruption. Heading will be balancing efficiency and ethical work culture, something like that. Heading will be that. अरे भाई यहाँ पे तो कुछ और ही पूछ रहे हैं लोग, अभी भी एआई में फंसे हुए हैं, बताइए। कंक्लूजन में लिख दीजिए, कंक्लूजन में लिख दीजिए, यू कैन राइट दैट इन कंक्लूजन ऑल्सो। हाँ, तो वो आपको प्रैक्टिस से आएगी। रिसेंट एनएचएम के स्टडी ऑफ एनएचएम फाइल दैट मोर देन 22 लेवल्स ऑफ अप्रूवल इज रिक्वायर्ड फॉर दिस। सो वो प्रैक्टिस से आप कम शब्दों में कहेंगे। ओके, अंडरस्टूड? वो बहुत ज्यादा स्पेस नहीं ले सकता गुड करप्शन को जस्टिफाई करना। लिखना तो है, ये तो मैंने पहले भी आपको बोला। अच्छा, मैं आपको बता क्यों रहा हूं ये सब? मैं सीधा सीधा ये भी तो बोल सकता हूं कि भैया ये रहा, नहीं हम तो मनाही करेंगे, बट एटलीस्ट यू शुड नो द कॉन्टेक्स्ट, that you should understand that from where the demand is coming. Unless you understand that, how will you counter that? So you are countering that you can be efficient and ethical together. That is how you are countering them. That democracy, you are understanding their perspective that decision making is slow because democracy and development cannot go hand in hand. In the question of democracy and development do not go hand in hand. And then the solution you need to provide that actually both of them can actually go hand in hand. It depends how you are making that decision. You need to follow decentralization and everything so that the decisions are taken at the lowest level possible and everything. So unless you address those concerns, how will you know? Understood? Someone please copy paste that question, AI question. Yes, natural fallacy you can use, the argument of Murray you can use, that corruption may be good at first, it may look good but it is not. Definitely you can use it. Shabash. By any chance we can write there is no good corruption, just like no good terrorist, bad terrorist. That is what we are arguing. There is no good corruption. That is what we are arguing, right? That we are only acknowledging that yes, this is what you are standing for, but after that we are denying all the time. Is it that hard to understand? I mean, is there anything that I can do more? I am repeating the argument only. Someone who was asking about AI, please copy paste your doubt. It has gone. Someone who was talking about AI, the flow of the question, please copy paste your. See, the flow of answer, if you start with positive, that you are talking about positive and then you're talking about ethical concerns and then you're talking about way forward. Because then from negative to way forward, I mean, there is a gap that is there. That now you're criticizing something and then perhaps you need to talk about some positive. So that flow is better, rest is up to you. Done? I think we have discussed every question then. We'll discuss it like that only. I will not go through PPT because all of you will take too much time in that. A public servant can be personally honest or professionally corrupt as their inaction. This question I've discussed so many times. I mean, so I don't know whether your silence is acceptance of that you have done good, or the way you are asking me questions, whether it is for the first time you are hearing it. Your reactions are like that. And I have discussed that question so many times in the context of democracy and development, in the context of efficiency and accountability, same thing I have discussed. And then also I told you that you need to acknowledge that when you are starting the discussion. I don't know what else can I do. Okay. So, a public servant can be personally honest but professionally corrupt, as their inaction in the face of corruption can be as detrimental to public interest as the corrupt action. This question is easy, I think. You would have done it. Yes? आप ही बोल रहे हो sir, बस. Up to you guys. Okay. So a public servant can be personally honest but professionally corrupt, as their inaction in the face of corruption can be just as detrimental to public interest as the corrupt action themselves. So what you have to write in that? बताइए. Probity is the essential thing that we need to write, and it is mostly about the cost of inaction. Okay, so mostly the question is about cost of inaction only. That is what you need to write. Okay, the second, next question is, anonymity has traditionally been a cornerstone of neutrality, yet the rise of social media necessitated a re-evolution of its relevance in digital age. So this question we have discussed. Yes, the theme of social media, that why traditionally anonymity has been regarded as the cornerstone of bureaucracy, because of dichotomy, political and mission dichotomy. It was the politicians, political executive who will take the blame and credit for the decision making. Bureaucrat will only implement the decision, and that will allow that person to take decision without fear and favor, without any concern and everything. And that is why it was a hallmark. But in the today's digital age, you can do a lot by positively using social media. So that is why that abject, anonymity is not required. That crude sense of anonymity is not required. Anonymity is required from the personal sense. So basically, you can use a social media account of district collector to perhaps change people's attitude and everything, but need not glorify individuals while they are doing that. So that is what you need to write. To the extent that people are not actually, to the extent it is not affecting their public duties, to the extent the social media should be used. So here, the code of conduct guidelines also you can use. You can suggest that social media users, we should provide code of conduct for that so that they can use it properly. Understood? So that is what we need to write here. So I think now, okay, one question is still there. So constitutional morality. So this part we have discussed in the very first or second class. Yes. I think only one question is there. Ethical management versus management of ethics. Rest of things we have discussed. So the question of ethical management versus management of ethics, what is the question that is there? बताइए, what did you understand by this question?
Ethical management is basically using ethics as the source for managing well, and management of ethics is basically treating ethics as a mere compliance issue and not
Selective application of ethics. It's a greenwashing.
Management of ethics is more about creating frameworks, ethical frameworks. Ethical management is using those frameworks in preservation.
Brilliant. What is your name? Mohit. Nice. Absolutely nice. बाकी लोग? सर आप जो बोल लेंगे मान लेंगे. हमें तो कुछ कहना ही नहीं है. Shreya ji, what is happening? Why people are not participating? What should I do? जी? Why are you narrowing the definition of ethics to conflict of interest when you are defining something? No. This is a very good question. This can be a full 10 marker question at some point of time. You see, this can be a full 10 marker question in UPSC. So who will answer this? Rest 3 questions you know, na? Courage of conviction, probity in public life, we have discussed that all the time. Yes? Easy questions only. Ethical management versus management of ethics. Please answer that. ऑनलाइन वालों आप भी आप आंसर कर सकते हैं. Vishesh, you answer this. You are from public administration. Ankit, to some extent you are right. No. So when in doubt, what did you write? You did not attempt this question. Okay. What about you, Pragya? What did you write?
for management of ethics, it is managing your own ethics, prioritizing them, and understanding your.
So see, in exam,
Can it be like that ethical management for social morality and management of ethics following letter of the law?
any other participant? बोलो यार, participate करो क्या? अच्छा, what is the purpose of this? I will definitely tell you the answer, but what is the purpose of this? I want to nudge you towards that so that you can develop that thinking in the actual examination hall. How will you arriving at that? Ji.
Management of ethics for positive outcomes. Usually management of ethics will introduce means.
Sorry,
I need more.
in terms of cognitive,
Okay, now I will give you a hint. Okay, so when I say management of class, for example, what do I mean by management of class? Suppose I am someone who is managing the class, I am the manager of the class. Then what will come under management of class? What will come under management of the class? Suppose I am the manager of ethics enrichment, ethics marks improvement program. I am the manager of that. The word is different. I'm not teacher now. I am the manager of ethics marks improvement program. So what I am supposed to do? What I am supposed to do? So yes, so first thing I need to frame the rules and regulation of the program, that what are the features of the program, who will be teaching you, I mean how perhaps marketing will be done with respect to the courses, whether you are getting the handouts or not, whether you are getting tests, whether this classroom is available or not, because that is the job of management only. Of course, whether this diesel board is working or not for that matter. So I will be taking care of basically everything about class. I may not be teaching myself because I am the manager of the ethics enrichment program, ethics marks improvement program. So teacher will be only one component of so many things here. Understood or not? So that is management. And then what will management of ethics will talk about then? How actually you are framing those ethical principles. What are those ethical principles? What are the mechanisms you are creating to enforce those ethical principles? That is management of ethics. And it was not that difficult if you just apply a bit of yourself in those moments. That if you can just break this term, what is management and what is ethics? Understood? So management of ethics, so now if I need to manage this class, I need to do so many things. The very first thing that came from you was, when I was the manager of the class, you will be framing rules and regulations. So here I will be framing ethical rules and regulations, perhaps framing code of conduct, perhaps framing code of this thing, and putting checks and balances, probity mechanisms to ensure that they are followed. That is management of ethics. What is Kumbh management is all about? Kumbh management. Kumbh, you understand Kumbh? Okay, what is Kumbh management is all about? So if someone is managing Kumbh, then he will be looking at the site, he will be looking at the potential inflow of the crowd and the structural management to actually divert the route and everything. So that is what Kumbh management is all about, basically doing everything about that. So that is similarly management of ethics is all about. You are conceptualizing something, you are implementing something, you are putting accountability mechanism, and that is what management of ethics is all about. Ethical management is putting that ethics in the managerial practice. It is same as ethical work culture. That your management, if I say that your ethical management, that this class is ethical, I say that, this program is ethical, ethics marks improvement program is ethical program. Then what I mean, that the features of this program, how they are implemented, how everything is being governed in an ethical manner. That is what I am saying. So ethical management will be what? How things are being managed in an ethical manner. So basically, management of ethics precedes ethical management, because when you have management of ethics, you are formulating law, you are putting some checks and balances system, putting people in place, and result of that is ethical management. That is how both these aspects are different. Understood or not? Brilliant, Sombharnika. Yes. So wishes, that is what I expected of you. When the topic was there, management of ethics, then you could have simply broken the term management into planning, organizing, coordinating, POCC principle that you have studied in public administration. And then you would have come to the answer that it is planning of ethics, organizing ethical principle, staffing and everything. Post-DCorp also, acronym is there in public administration. Basically, simply breaking that down. So, in actual exam condition, if suppose the question comes to you and you don't know anything about it, just break down the term. Just as you do that in the prelims. Okay, and that will always help you. At least you will be writing an answer that will get 30 to 40% of the marks. And that is what you need because you are writing brilliantly in most of the questions. That much only suffice. Understood? Now you know how to approach such questions? Yes? जी कहाँ गए?
वो dimension दे सकते हैं कि बस merely managing the reactions of public versus doing duty ethically.
That will be a very narrow dimension. Because आप जो एग्जाम्पल दे रहे हो एक एग्जाम्पल है, मैनेजमेंट ऑफ एथिक्स इज मच ब्रॉडर टर्म. मैनेजमेंट ऑफ क्लास सो मेनी थिंग्स आप कह रहे हैं कि सर नोट्स डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की उसका डायमेंशन एक डायमेंशन होगा ना बस. Notes distribution. Notes distribution will come under management of class only. That is the responsibility of me only, manager of the classes. Yes? So that is what management of ethics is all about. Understood or not?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this question is done, I guess, then?
In short notes, we have to give examples also.
Definitely example. Why do you think you don't need to give example?
Sir, to how
हम बताओ. नहीं दिए तो हैं बट ये क्वेश्चन ही क्यों आया मैं तो पूछना चाह रहा हूँ. चेंज कर दिया क्वेश्चन सर. स्मार्ट. पहला ही क्वेश्चन बताओ क्यों आया. डाउट फॉर एग्जांपल देने के नहीं. क्वेश्चन यही था ना आपका. मैं कोई गलत तो नहीं सुना. तो मैं गलत क्वेश्चन पूछ लेता हूँ. डॉक्टर साहब बहुत लीवे ले रहे हो आप. पर द आंसर क्वेश्चन वुड बी दिस दैट कितने एग्जांपल देने हैं, ज्यादा देने कम देने. बट सर वहीं से बता दो देने कि नहीं देने. ठीक है. You write as many examples that you can. Someone is saying that you need to hesitate. You need to hesitate. Were you able to listen to what he was saying? Okay. This microphone is. Yes, Mohsen. Ji. That you tell me. What we should write in ethical management. Just tell me the keyword from syllabus. Work culture, ethical work culture, leadership, that is ethical management. So sound corporate governance is an example of ethical management. Understood? Making company act was an example of management of ethics. Very good. No, amending that act and including CSR provision was example of management of ethics because you were framing the rules and regulations. When it was implied, when people were following that, then it became example of ethical management. Yes, you can add that. That will be the attribute on which you will be judging whether the work culture is ethical or not. Understood? So I think we should stop now this discussion. क्या ये ले लो इसके. अच्छा ये वाले क्वेश्चन अब कौन से बचे हैं. पीपीटी देखनी है. लो फोटो खींचो. चलो डन. देयर इज नो पीपीटी आफ्टर दैट. ठीक है. So now let us start with the case studies. So before we discuss case studies, there's something that we need to discuss first, and that is doctrine of double effect. Okay, there are topic that I told you I will cover with the case study orientation. Now, I think we discussed in the beginning of the class that if we somehow are able to anticipate the consequence of something, then we should be held more responsible for that. We discussed that argument in the context of child. Suppose a child accidentally put this building on fire, then we will be very considerate towards that child. I mean, we will not be judging that child very harshly. But if suppose Mohsin does that, then things will be difficult for him. Understood? So if suppose I do that, I mean. Okay, so okay, So the point is that we don't judge child, that rigorously because he may not anticipate the consequence of something. Understood? So if you are able to anticipate something, don't you think it makes you more responsible toward that action? Just as many of you will be in prelims mode. I mean, many of the aspirants at this point of time are ignoring mains. I cannot say that about you because you have been quite regular in this. So, but many of the aspirants are only in prelims mode only, as if that is the only stage that is there in the civil service examination. And they are like, first clear prelims, then you will think about mains. And then after prelims, if naturally they will not be in a good position, and because they are not prepared mains, and time also is very less for mains. So then they will be held more responsible for that. Why? Because they could foresee that. It was not the case that UPSC suddenly introduced mains just after prelims. At the end of CSAT paper, they have given the syllabus that after 3 months we will have mains examination. It is not the case. Beforehand these are subjects that you are able to prepare. So one thing is that if we are able to anticipate the consequence of any action, then we will be held more responsible. So that is the assumption that is there. Another thing is that if that is so true, then of course anyone would not like to do in their sane mind that something that will produce negative consequences, because they can anticipate that negative consequences. For example, if I know that if I suppose smoke too much at this point of time and having lung cancer, then I will die only. Then perhaps I will not be indulging in smoking because I am having lung cancer. Understood? But at times, there are challenges. At times, there are certain decisions and decision making in which you cannot separate the good impact from the bad impact. And both these things will always come together only. The good and bad will come together in terms of consequences, and you will be able to anticipate the consequences beforehand. I will give you the example of lathi charge. In lathi charge, anyone can anticipate that there are people who might be killed. Anyone can anticipate there are people, when you are indulging in that, people who might be harmed. But the consequence of lathi charge is that you are doing it to maintain law and order, to maintain peace. Yes, so you are achieving the good, but at the same time you are having the bad impact also, and you cannot divorce the two. I mean, you cannot have peace without the lathi charge, without perhaps harming someone. Because if that is possible, why would you do the lathi charge in the first place? So that is the given that the situation is like that you have to do lathi charge. If that is the case, then you cannot perhaps divorce these two ends. Understood or not? I'll give you an example of abortion. When you are having abortion to save, let's say, pregnant women, then the good aspect is that you are saving someone's life. The bad aspect is that you are killing someone, and you cannot divorce the two. I mean, you cannot save the mother without killing the fetus. Understood? And that is why, and you can anticipate both of them. You can anticipate that you have to kill someone, and then only you will have the good end achieved. I'll give you another example of war. When you are doing war, anyone can anticipate that people will be killed. Anyone can anticipate that, because that is what war is all about. But when you are doing that, you feel that it will lead to more justice, more peace, like Ramayana, Mahabharata, all these examples. And that is why you are doing it. So basically, don't you think all these cases have something in common? And that something is that we already can anticipate the consequence of what we are doing, and those consequences have both positive and negative character. We cannot divorce these two characters from each other, and that is why we are in a fix whether we should go about this decision making or not, because there is dual consequences that is there. Abortion, whether we should do it or not; war, whether we should wage it or not; lathi charge, open firing, everything, whether we should do it or not. Another case, whistleblowing is another case of that, whether we should do it or not. Because whistleblowing was the same case, that you cannot, when you are doing the whistleblowing, you can anticipate the consequences. The consequences is that you are saving people's life by revealing some fact, and at the same time you are inviting some harm to yourself because you are blowing the whistle, and you cannot divorce the two. If you want to save people, you have to do the whistleblowing, and that is the need of whistleblowing. Understood or not? समझ में आ रहा है आपको? So basically, My dear students, in such cases, what is happening that whenever we are making that decision, we are having dual consequences, and since we are not able to divorce them, since we can anticipate them, then we will be held responsible for that. Because we can anticipate. So a doctor who is doing the abortion will be held responsible for the abortion. The person who is deciding on war will be held responsible for war. The person who is doing the whistleblowing will be held responsible for whistleblowing. Okay? Now, in all such cases, let us talk about abortion, let us talk about whistleblowing, let us talk about lathi charge, for example. In all such cases, suppose a case study is thrown at you in these circumstances only, then don't you think all of the people will be going towards whistleblowing only? All of the people will be going towards abortion only? Of course, I'm assuming that you cannot save life through any other method. That is the assumption that is there. And lathi charge, I'm assuming people will be going with that only. Then, my dear students, how will your answer be different than others' answers, and how will examiners satisfy themselves that you have arrived at that decision basically on what basis? How will you justify the decision? Because the answer is same for everyone. The ultimate conclusion is same for everyone, that they will blow the whistle. So here, one important aspect is that we have to qualify our decision making. When we are making the decision, we have to tell the examiner, see, we can anticipate both the aspect, but see, this is the way we have gone through our decision making, and in these circumstances we are making the decision, and we know that these are the consequences of that, and we are trying to mitigate that. Basically, through a process, you will be telling the examiner that it was a very, very, very difficult decision to arrive at, and we had to do it, but that is what we have done, and that is a way to convince someone. Understood? So now let us learn how actually we go about it. So this is what doctrine of double effect. It is applicable in all such cases where we have dual consequences. You cannot divorce both the part, and you can anticipate both the consequences. So here some principles are important. The nature of act, it should be good. The intention should be good, and one should intend the good effect. We will discuss all these things one by one, don't worry. We should intend the good effect and not the bad effect, For example, I'll give you the example. For example, the lathi charge is there, So suppose you are an SP, there are people who are protesting in front of your office. They're protesting like anything, and you have spoken to them, but they are like they're not listening to you. Just like you have not listened to your teacher, so now they are not listening to you while you have become your SP. So now they are getting violent, and they are taking things into their own hand, and now you feel that things may escalate and they may threaten your life also. So now you are ordering some lathi charge, everything that is there. So here this is saying that your intention of lathi charge should be to ensure law and order, and it should not be the retribution. It should not be the case that you want to take revenge. How dare they not follow what you are saying? How dare they are protesting in front of your office? So your prime intention should be to ensure law and order and not to punish them through that. Because punishment is not your job. Punishment is the job of judiciary. So that is why one famous line that was said by one IAS probationer, Sir Fordovenka, break their heads during managing farmer protest. It was bad because his attitude was attitude of revenge, and that is why it is wrong. Understood? So when you are waging the war, for example, in a similar way, you should wage the war to ensure peace and justice. You should not wage the war because you want to teach another country a lesson. That should not be the prime, the revenge and everything. The intention should be good. When you are doing the abortion, your prime objective should not be to kill fetus. Your prime objective should be to save someone's life, and it is an after effect or the corollary that the fetus has to die. That is, you are not intending that. You are intending saving mother's life. In the lathi charge, you are intending ensuring peace. In the whistleblowing, you are intending public interest. Although it is different matter altogether that after whistleblowing you may be famous also, but you are not intending that. That is a byproduct of your courage. Okay, so you are not intending the popularity. You are not driven by that, because if you are driven by that, and you will commit so many mistakes. We will discuss that later. So similarly, in the case of what other example I gave you? war, so we are not intending to inflict some punishment or something like that. We are intending that a peace will arrive after this, and other aspects are secondary aspect. Understood? So similar way, our intention must be the good, and the negative part should be the byproduct of that. That is what we must understand, and we must exercise due diligence to minimize the perceived harm. When we are doing the war, then it should be having proportionate amount of violence. Suppose I am doing the lathi charge, then the lathi charge that I am doing, or whatever violence I am using against my own citizen, against my protester, then those things should be proportionate. Suppose I am an SP, people are not listening to me, they are getting violent. It should not be the case that I will order open fire on them, they just kill everyone. Because the amount of violence should be proportionate. That is what it is saying. When you are waging a war, it should not be the case that you are dropping a nuclear bomb on the entire country. It should be very surgical, very precise, because that is what you want to intend. Another case was whistleblowing. When you are doing the whistleblowing, you should do that with good cause only. I mean, by taking all the precaution, by due diligence and everything. Okay, we'll discuss everything in detail. So that is what doctrine double effect, that when we are taking the decision, actually, we are taking the decision through a sequence of decision making procedures, that our intention is good and we are minimizing everything, and that is why we are telling the examiner that see, this decision is very, very difficult for us, but we have to do it. Understood? So let us discuss that in the context of war first, and that will make you understand everything. Okay, so just war theory is that only, that when we are indulging in war, we already know that we will be killing some people. We know that. Yes, so we already know that taking human life is seriously wrong. We know that. At the same time, states have duty to protect, to defend their citizen and defend justice. They have their duty. And at the same time, they must protect innocent human life. So at some time, we know that taking life of some people, it is bad, but at the same time, it may require war. Because we want to defend ourselves, people have attacked us, or we want to defend innocent people who are getting attacked in some other country, example of Bangladesh war. Understood? So basically, now we have to indulge in war, and we cannot achieve this goal objective of protecting people without war, without using violence, without killing people. So now this is perfect case of doctrine double effect, because we can anticipate both the things beforehand, and there is dual thing that is going on. Now, how we will be justifying that we are indulging in war? The first thing is, now when I am writing or when I am justifying that, I will be telling you that see, it is a matter of last resort. We have exhausted all the peaceful alternatives that were there. Even in the case of Ramayana and Mahabharata, you will see the great example of war. You will see that the Lord Ram, he sent so many ambassadors for peace. Angad and everyone went. Through Vibhishan also it was communicated that, you please ask Raman to reconsider everything. In the case of Mahabharata, the Pandavas finally asked for 5 grams only, if not the half kingdom. That this is what we will settle for, but at least give us 5 grams. The point is that all peaceful alternatives must be exhausted before you go towards that. And don't you think, similar in the case of abortion, all other peaceful alternatives should be exhausted? Similar in the case of whistleblowing, all other peaceful alternatives should be exhausted? Similarly in the case of, what other case we discussed? Lathi charge also, all the peaceful alternatives should be exhausted. So you are telling the examiner that, sir, I know things are very risky or dual consequences, but you must understand that I have already exhausted all other alternative means. And it is my matter of last resort, because the duty is asking me to do that. Understood? And you should be the war, I'm talking about war, and the war should be waged by the authority which has the responsibility to protect citizens. I mean, the war cannot be waged by Congress or BJP or RSS. Because these parties, or even you and me, we do not have responsibility to protect people. It is the state which has responsibility to protect that under social contract. So that is why we need to understand that we cannot wage war against Pakistan. It is only the job of state. The state has a legitimate duty to do that, and that is why it has to do anything in its power to protect its citizen, and that will always include war. Understood? So now we have legitimate responsibility to protect our citizens, sir, and last resort, we have exhausted everything, and then there should be a reasonable probability of success in what we are doing, and our intention is to promote peace, our intention to restore justice, our intention is to protect the innocent citizens who are getting butchered in the hands of majority people that are there, in the context of 1971 war I am talking about. So that is our intention. Our intention is not to inflict any punishment or something like that. Our intention is not that. Our intention is to save the life of the mother. Our intention is to perhaps ensure law and order at the earliest while the protesters are getting violent, because if they become too violent, then things may escalate to at any level, and then police may not be able to actually control that. Understood or not? Because if they escalate to at larger level, it will be very difficult to contain that. Understood, right? And then whatever violence you are using, it should be proportionate. Surgical strike is an example of that. Very proportionate measure we undertook. Abortion and the lathi charge, everything. When you are doing the lathi charge, it is not the case that they are lathi charge at the first go. I mean, there is a warning that is there, peaceful alternative definitely. After that, warning, tear gas, everything. When lathi charge, when even firing is there, they fire initially, empty fires. Empty fires are there. After that, when they have to fire, they fire like that. I mean, they don't aim. They don't aim at the head. They fire like that. So that, I mean, if they are killing someone, then they are killing below the body, the lower half of the body only. So that is how they are firing. So basically, government has provided many directions to the police personnel that in those cases only you will use the force, and that should be gradual use of force rather than at a proportionate use of violence should be there as per the demand of the situation. So that is why now when I am telling you this, then perhaps anyone will concur, yes, I mean, you had no other option but to wage the war. Another point is that I should try, to control the consequences also, to mitigate the adverse consequences also. For example, in law and order management, if suppose some people are victimized because of that, then I should perhaps take them to hospital, or perhaps I should, provide some compensation to the family and everything, because that is a responsibility of the state. Understood? Understood or not? So that is what mitigating the adverse circumstances is all about. That now you want to mitigate the adverse circumstances. Understood? Understood or not? And that is why, let us just discuss something. Let us discuss whistleblowing. We have discussed whistleblowing before? No? So let us discuss whistleblowing now. Now in whistleblowing, it is not the case that you blow the whistle in the first instance. You first perhaps will verify the facts, that whether what you are hearing, what you are knowing is actually true or not. It may be the matter that you are simply acting on the hearsay. People are saying something and you are acting on it. Then what do? You are verifying something. Now that you are verified, perhaps you should approach the internal authority regarding that, that what you are doing. It may be the case that they have already noticed that and they are taking the remedial action and you may not know about it yet. Okay, so that is the internal thing that you are doing. Suppose you have exhausted that and they also said so that, I mean, either you keep quiet or otherwise you will kill, I mean, people will kill you, something like that. Suppose then perhaps you need to do some soul searching also and need to see that what is your true intention that is there, whether you want to blow the whistle for the sake of blowing the whistle for the publicity or what it is. Also, the matter, I mean, it should be significant enough. It should be significant. You should not blow the whistle for any trivial case. The bathroom is not working, and you are blowing the whistle for that. I mean, how bad it sounds. You should blow the whistle only for the cases that warrant as such. So basically, that is what it should be significant. You should not blow the whistle for the trivial aspect. And then you must take responsibility for what you are doing. You cannot let her say that I did not know, I will be fired from the job, for example. I did not know, I will be threatened by this. The responsibility you should take for whatever you are doing, and then perhaps you should go and blow the whistle. All I am saying is that there is a due procedure through which you are going, and then you are blowing the whistle. You are telling the examiner that I am doing that. It is not an easy choice to do, I understand that, but these are the circumstances that has pushed me to the corner, and since I cannot stand by, I mean, so many people will be killed because if what I am witnessing, if I don't reveal it to outside, if corrective action is not taken in time, then so many people will be killed, and that I cannot tolerate on my conscience, and that is why I will blow the whistle. So you are telling the examiner that this is what you will be doing. Understood? So basically in all such cases, it is all about how you are making the decision. It is not just about the final decision that you are making, because all of you will be making the same decision only, more or less. So it is not about that, it is about the process through which you are making the decision and how exactly you are justifying that. Understood? Online value understood? So that is what about, in all such cases, that is what you need to understand, that this is how you should be arriving at the decision making. Okay, but one thing is that ultimately you will be responsible for the consequences, and that include bad consequences also. Ultimately you will be responsible for killing of fetus. Ultimately you will be, as an SP, you will be responsible for killing of some civilians' death in the protest management, crowd management. Ultimately you will be responsible, for the killing of people. If you are waging the war, you will be responsible. So you cannot hide behind responsibility later on. So that is something that you must know. Understood? So that is why you need to understand that when we are making such decision, it has to be a gradual step by step process. You must tell the examiner that what process you need to qualify your decision making, and that will impress the examiner most, that see, this person did not have any choice other than to arrive at that decision only, and he will understand your perspective also, that you tried your best, okay, in terms of managing everything, but yeah, this is what we need to do. Understood? Now you please note it, and then we will discuss the case studies. Sir, do we need to write this for all case studies? Dhire dhire re mana, dhire sab kuch hoye. So you need to wait. I have not just addressed case studies yet. This part was good, in which I need not ask anything from you. I felt very content in this. That is how I should teach, no? Done? Done? So now let us start with case study section. While I think 8 classes are remaining, yes? After this 7 more classes will be remaining. So in those 7 classes, since case studies is nothing to revise at home, basically you will be practicing here and doing these things. Probably half an hour you will give to the case study. I will request you to just go through the section A answer writing again and again, okay, so that you can revise it once more, twice more, and then you will be at, far better place in terms of answer writing. As of now also you have improved a lot, even though, that you can judge yourself. To some extent you must have improved. After that, the learning will be multifold, because so many things will get interlinked and everything, but it will require sustained action. Understood? Notes chhote bhi mat kariye. I will say that give it another 1 round of revision, another 15-20 days, and then perhaps you should go to work. Notes chhote, perhaps after prelims you can do it. Okay, so that is not an objective here. Objective is that you must be, very clear. This is the requirement of the subject. This is how my answer writing is. And how many of you have seen remarkable difference in terms of answer writing from test 1 to test 6? Okay, yeah, you are on the right track then. Just keep on doing that. Keep on doing that. Another 10 days, 15 days. You will get there. I am very sure you will get there. I will give another example. See, the content that we are teaching, many things that I am teaching, they are very dense in terms of what we are discussing, and that is why, at times you are not able to recall what we have discussed, you are not able to apply. And many of my students, I give you an example. One student is there, she qualified last year. She also took my ethics batch last year. And after that, this year, she met me after the result. She got some 500 rank. And I'm sorry. So she got 500 rank this year. And when she met, she said, "Sir, I could not implement everything that you taught us last year," and she joined again this year. And I was amazed by the way she was able to implement all the thing. She was writing brilliant answers, because see, when you have lot of content to grasp, in between prelims and mains, time is very limited. Other papers are also there. So at times you don't give that much time to the subject that is required to master this. And that is why you are not able to actually apply whatever we have learned. And that is why I am telling you, another 1 month you give to ethics, at least 1 hour, 1.5 hours, and you will see tremendous interlinkages, application, everything, because after some point of time, your learning curve will be like this. It will be very, very steep. Understood? It will be very, very steep, because you will be able to remember things, you will be able to apply everything, and that is what. So that will come with time. Another 1 month you should give to this, okay, and have belief. So let us come to this paper. 6 case studies will be there, 120 marks, 20 marks each. At times UPSC may give 25 marks each, but they have stopped doing that. Word limit is usually 250 words, but that is something that I don't think any aspirant will adhere to while he's actually, addressing the case studies, because case study itself is very lengthy. So mostly it is time limit that you should follow, 14 minutes, not the word limit, because no aspirant will be able to do justice in 250 words. And important part is that it tests your decision making ability. And that decision making ability is tested not just through the option that you create, but also how you are arriving at that decision, just like we have discussed, and also how you are justifying that decision. How you are justifying that decision. So that is most important, that your reasoning will be accounted for. For example, when I ask you that, not everyone will write that, that they will do corruption, they will do unethical thing while they are writing the answer. So everyone will be writing the same answer only. How will then examiner differentiate? How will examiner differentiate? Through reasoning only, and that is why in ethics case studies, reasoning is most important. See, many people focuses on excessive focus on merits and demerits. When they are writing options, when they are creating options, when they are writing merits and demerits, they will excessively focus on that. So that perhaps they will be writing so many merits and demerits, so that they will not get that much amount of time to write reasoning. And that is why, they will not good marks. They will not get good marks because of that. So they will create options, one option, merit, demerit, second option, merits. They will write so many points in here only. They will show their ethical side here only, all the time. But see, when you are writing too many points in this part, it's actually very mechanical part for the examiner. Okay, because what you are writing here, in next question you will be writing here. It is like that. तेरे मस्त मस्त दो नैन मेरे दिल का ले गए चैन तेरे मस्त मस्त दो नैन. It is like that only, active passive voice you are doing. So it will not actually add lot of value to your answer writing. What you should do, you should limit this. Not more than 5 collectively you should write for each of the option, merit, 4 demerit, 1 merit, or vice versa, something like that. 2, 3, 3, 2, that not more than 5, because this is not something that add a lot of value to your answer writing. So this is very mechanical. You should focus more on justification. Understood? Now, talking about justification, I think I will discuss that later after some point of time. Okay, so this is what it is. They will test your reasoning, aptitude, intelligence through your decision making and everything. And there are different type of case studies that are there. Case studies that are based in public sector, government sector based case study will be there, private sector, NGOs. And this differential context will create differential argument. That is what you need to understand. When you are writing case study in this public sector, you must see things from citizen perspective and everything. Here, Consumer Protection Act and everything, shareholder, that structure will come into the place. In NGOs, we know the keywords that are there, voluntary, formation, democratic and everything. Understood? So that is what you need to understand. The context you must identify, because in some of the arguments are more specific to those sectors than other arguments. So that is why context is important to, and then some case studies are based on applied ethics, environmental ethics, bioethics, that is an application of ethical standard in a particular context. Okay, so that is there, environmental ethics. So there, whatever important key principles that you have learned, while studying that, you must use that in your answer writing. Okay, it should not be the case that only when UPSC will ask you environmental ethics, you will answer that. Okay, you should use that while you are writing case studies also. Similarly, I think the technological ethics, for example, suppose you are dealing with some, then GDPR guidelines you can quote, technical ethics keyword you can quote, this is why we are doing that, etc., etc. So those ethical, then certain case studies based on social issues like disaster management, child marriage, women, narcotics case study, RTI, they are based on more GS, they are based more on GS. And then there is certain theoretical questions that will be disguised as case studies only, like politician of bureaucracy, bona fide mistakes, certain case studies are there. So there will be mostly theoretical case study, not much decision making to be made, but theoretical argument. Ideally, they should have been asked in section A, but since UPSC could not accommodate them there, so they will ask that in section B. So that is how different case studies are asked. So let us just understand some of the case studies. That this is a senior officer in the finance ministry. I think the government contextual case study is there. You read this? Done? So basically here oath of secrecy, certain keywords are more important, So all those keywords are more important here. So now we know that what we need to get when we are identifying the context. Okay. Similarly, certain case study based on applied ethics. You read this. So that is basically environmental ethics, ecocentrism, all those principles we need to write here. Understood? For applied ethics only. This is based on societal issues like migration. You read this. Done. For subtle issues only. This is private sector based case study. I think you have gone through that. Understood? Similar case study, corporate governance case study. And you read this case study. This is the disguised case study, not actually a case study, theoretical argument only, but you read this. Done? So what is the question? So that is basically a section A question. You know, I mean, it has been asked as part of case study. So that is also how UPSC has been asked. UPSC has asked such questions in the context of case study. Understood? And you should not be worried about such questions. You know, they are actually easy questions in terms of scoring. Now, what should be the code of conduct? You know, code of conduct from the perspective of aspirant. That what you should do while you are attending the case study. One thing is that we must read case study very, very carefully. You know, that is very, very important, that we must read case study very, very important, because there are lot many dimensions, hidden dimensions are there, and lot many arguments that will always come when you are writing the, when you are studying the case study. So let us just read some case study and then I will explain something about that. We'll go to previous slide again. So you are working as an executive engineer. Okay, so what does it mean? It means that it is talking about professional ethics. So if you are executive engineer, the sustainability, safety of the structure is the prime requirement that is there. Okay, so that is the ethical aspect, ethical obligations that is there on you apart from the legal obligation. So that is what executive engineering keyword will help you. In the construction cell of the municipal corporation, and you are presently in charge, basically it highlights the position of leadership in charge and also the responsibility that is there, you know, of the construction of a flyover. So whatever happened to this flyover, it will be your responsibility. So your responsibility is there, your duty is there. So the keyword should be very much specific, a duty to do this. Understood? There are two junior engineers under you. So basically you are in a position of hierarchy. That is the people who are reporting to you and who have the responsibility of day-to-day inspection. So their duty is also been identified, that they have the responsibility of the inspection of the site and they are reporting to you, while you are finally reporting to the chief engineer, who is the head of the site. So basically entire hierarchy is there. You know, it is you are reporting to someone, under you two people are reporting to you. So basically organizational hierarchy is there. You know, this is what we are getting from this. And then while the construction is heading towards completion, the junior engineers have been regularly reporting that all construction is taking place as per the design specifications. They are saying that everything is good. However, one of your surprise inspections, you have noticed some serious deviations that are there, which in your opinion likely to affect the safety of the flyover. So that is very important, safety of the flyover, because it is important part of engineering ethics, that you must ensure the structure that you are building is safe, and ultimately you have the responsibility of the flyover. So that is in your opinion. Okay, so it is important. So that is the cue that we are getting. The rectification of these lacunas at this stage would require substantial amount of demolition. That means utilization of public fund keyword, the misuse of that, and rework which will cause a tangible loss to exchequer, contractor. So another stakeholder is there, that is contractor. We should think about him when we are making the decision, and will also delay completion. So delay basically means quality of service delivery, that you are delaying something, and there is lot of public pressure on the corporation to get this completed because of the heavy traffic that was there. Heavy traffic means what? Again, quality of service delivery, environmental pollution and everything. Citizens are suffering, and this means public pressure means what? That accountability mechanism with respect to public accountability that is there, social accountability that is there. So those are the keywords that you can associate while you are reading this particular case study. Okay, now let us look at this. When you brought this matter to the notice of chief engineer, he advised you. So when he is advising you, someone who is in the position of hierarchy with respect to you, then if someone is advising you who is senior to you, that comes with two things. One, organizational hierarchy, you know. Another thing is he has more experience. Another thing is he has more expertise. So that is something, that is a merit that will go in this decision making. If one of the option is that, you will be hearing to what he is saying, then the merit will be experience and expertise and the hierarchy. Okay, in his opinion, is not a very serious lapse and may be ignored. He is saying that, I mean, you can ignore it. Advice for further expediting the project. However, you are convinced. This convince means courage of conviction. This convince means that there will be crisis of conscience if you are not going ahead with your assumption or your understanding. If you are simply following what they are telling you or the superior telling you, that you will be having crisis of conscience. This is what convince is all about. Okay, that this is a serious matter which might affect the public safety and should not be left unaddressed. What you should do. So that is how you need to read the case study. You need to identify those keywords and what are the associated ethical obligations to those keywords. Understood or not? So that is what you need to understand. Now let us read another case study. Similar case studies they are similar. Now you are a municipal commissioner for Nodal Committee, Foundation of Civil Services, all of them are here. Yes, understood? Having a reputation of a very honest and upright officer. Now these are character setting, the context setting keywords that they are telling you that what kind of person you are, how they are relevant to you, because when you don't follow these options that align with these values, you must have crisis of conscience. So that is what it is there. For demerit, you can talk about that a character is that and reputation is that. Reputation will be gone, you will have crisis of conscience and so many things, cognitive dissonance and everything. So that is what you can write. Understood or not? So that is, you look for the character setting keywords. And a huge multiple mall is under construction in your city. Daily wage earners are there. One night during monsoons, a big chunk of the roof collapsed, causing instant death. Of the 4 laborers, many more were seriously injured, requiring medical attentions. A big hue and cry. Government has instituted an inquiry. Now, your preliminary inquiry, something you have already investigated, has revealed a series of anomalies. The material used for the construction was of poor quality. Despite the approval, building plans permitted only one basement, additional basement has been constructed. So basically, it talk about how plans were not actually enforced, potentially reeking of collusion between the administration and the project. This was overlooked during the periodic inspection, so that is there. And this municipal corporation, in your inquiry, you notice that the construction of the mall was given green signal despite encroaching on areas marked for green belt. So basically, the outright regulations were not followed. Some regulations were there, they were also not followed. And the Journal Master Plan, the permission to construct the mall was accorded by the previous municipal commissioner, who not only was a senior but also well known to you professionally, but also the good friend. So basically, this is about mixing ethics in public life and private life. It is about creating that dilemma that he's not just senior to you, you just don't know him professionally, he gave that all those sanctions, but also there is some friendlier nature that is there, he's also a good friend of you. So when you are reading the case study, you must think that what is the consequence of this line. This line is that it will create dilemma. The demerit will always be there in terms of the judgment on your friendship. Now, prima facie, the case appears to be a widespread nexus between officials and builder. Your colleagues are putting pressure on you to go slow in the inquiry because for the obvious nature, because their name will be there in the inquiry. The builder, who is rich and influential, happens to be a close narrative of a powerful minister in the state cabinet. Now see the twist in the turn. Now UPSC has introduced another stakeholder, that is the minister. And the builder is persuading you to hush up the matter, promising you a fortune to do so. That is carrot. Okay, so UPSC is now giving you carrot. See, if you do something good, then you will have a fortune, something like that, And if you don't do that, he also hinted that the matter is not resolved at the earliest in your favor, that somebody in the office will file a false post case. I mean the sexual harassment case against you. This is the stick. So carrot and stick they have given together. Understood? So when we are reading the case study, we should look at these important keywords and what are the associated ethical obligations are there, professional, organizational, other perspective. Apart from that, character setting keywords are very, very important. Who you are and what you have stood for, credibility, everything will be there. Apart from that, always look for such pattern. In UPSC case studies, I mean, there will be such pattern in which you will be offered something if you do that, like carrot, and if you don't do it, you will be punished. Understood? At times it may not be outright bribery, in this case fortune to do so, because no one will accept that. At times UPSC may create situations in which the positive side is actually your duty only. For example, in one of the case study last year, now you start going through case study regular basis, because I will be drawing so many examples from the different references that you should do that in that case study, something like that. For that you must remember some part of that case study. So start going through the case studies. So in one of the case study was there, in that case study, a person, state civil service, Ramesh, yes, a state civil service officer was there, and he had spent a lot of time in the state services, and he was posted in capital, and he was made in charge of some inquiry, and he had mother who was suffering from cancer, and she was getting treated at the capital only. And he also had children who are going to college in the capital city only. Everything was settled, and he was made chairman of a committee. That committee prepared a report, and those report, it had some findings that were not very, convenient to the higher authorities, and that's what they told him, that if you publish those findings, then we will transfer you. So now you see in this case what UPSC is telling you, it is creating a dilemma. Simply, if you follow that, then the carrot is your duty only, that you will be able to take care of your mother, you will be able to take care of your children also if you are in city. Understood or not? So basically that is what you need to look for when you are reading the case study. You must identify the pattern that is there, the kind of dilemma UPSC wants to create. Don't just go by the flow of the emotional strength, the way UPSC is asking, making you read the entire case study. Just don't take it, just be a bit, have some distance while you are reading the case study, and have a macro perspective, not micro perspective, that you are reading case study like this. No, have a macro perspective. Okay, this is what the case is. Basically, this is the negative side, this is the positive side, and this is the pull factor, this is the push factor. That is what you understand. Oh, I know this. This is what UPSC will do. Suppose in that case, cancer, everything. What UPSC was very benign in that way. They could have added that the officer also had an unmarried sister, and they have taken a lot of loan for it. Parents are on the verge of collapse. If they don't get the sister married, then they will not feel very happy about it. And the son recently has become drug addict and something like that. So basically, they could have added a lot of complexity in that. But fortunately, they did not add. So when you are doing that, when you are understanding that pattern, just understand that from a distant perspective. Don't go through that flow, because that will influence your mind. Okay, because when you are making a judgment, you should not be too emotional. You should understand that these are just the drama that has been created by UPSC. I'm not asking you to become insensitive. I'm asking you to become emotionally intelligent while you are reading that. Okay, you should not become too sensitive. Mother is there, cancer is there. Oh my God, how can I just leave the capital? Okay, because if I leave the capital, then UPSC will see the unethical side of me. Okay, so you should not just flow by that. Understood? Similar case study was there in 17 that you are appearing in the examination interview, and a road accident is there, and the relative, your relative has already been injured, and what you will do. So now, UPSC was again kind enough not to make it too complicated. UPSC could have said so that, this is your last attempt. Okay, and very first time you have reached interview, and you have taken loans for 4 or 5 years. There is a loan, there is unmarried sister, you have a girlfriend waiting for you. If you don't qualify, then perhaps your relationship is over, or 8 years of relationship is over. Your childhood sweetheart will go, that's what UPSC can write. So it can make it more dramatic in terms of that. So you should not just, सर कैसे घर उजाड़ दें इसका, ठीक है. You should not understood. So you should not just go by that flow. You should not become emotional when you are reading that. That is what I am telling you, because that is the way UPSC will create dilemmas. You know, you have been recently married, your family is there, they are threatening your family, something like that, and you are fighting sand mafia. What will you do? You know, something like that. So again, don't become too emotional just because you are recently married. Understood? So that is the point that is there, that when you are reading the case study, you must look for the pattern. Okay, this is what now UPSC is going to say, and that is the purpose for that. That is what you must understand, because all the things are there and you must address them. See, here the demerit is this very, very important aspect. When I am making the decision, of course I will make the decision, I will be going ahead. You know, no one will say that no, I will have the fortune and I will have the transfer and everything. Everyone will make the decision, no, I am upright and everything. And if you stop your answer just right at there, you are having an incomplete answer. Because you must address why it is that you are accepting that there can be a false case against you. Why you are accepting that? You must address this dimension. That why it is acceptable to you that there can be a false case against you, why it is. So perhaps you can say that you believe in the judiciary and ultimately truth will come out and you will be, declared innocent only. That is what but you must address that. You cannot just brush this thing aside, okay, we'll see the case. You cannot write that. Similarly, in the context of civil services, the Ramesh, he cannot also not write I will just go ahead with the reports, and at times sacrifice of mothers are required. That is what my mother has taught me, selflessness. So if need be, at times some certain sacrifices are required. That is not something that you should write. Understood? So you must address that also while you are addressing the case study, that there is obligation with respect to your mother, and this is how you will discharge that obligation. And you must address that. You should not leave that unaddressed, because then you are not answering the question. Understood or not? You are not answering the question. Similarly, in the case study of this UPSC interview and everything, you must address that why you are attending the victim, what you will do with respect to interview and everything. So the point is that whatever obvious demerits are there, you must address them. If you don't address them, then you are not actually answering the question. And don't you think you are not answering the question if you are not addressing that? Suppose in this case you simply write that, I will go ahead with the decision making, I will prepare the report and then I will go. Then if you are not addressing what will happen to the friendship, what will happen to this case, if you are not addressing that, then don't you think, it is an incomplete answer? Because then what is the reason of putting these dilemma before you? They are as good as UPSC has not included them. So you must address that. Understood or not? This part, are you able to understand or not? That we must address the demerits. Solitude is bliss. In what context? I think in the context of, I don't know. In what context they have written solitude is bliss. Okay, so that is what, that you must address the demerits of the chosen course of action. Because otherwise you are not answering the question. So now let us just understand the code of conduct again in that light, that you should identify the dilemmas, issues, stakeholders. You should read case study very carefully. Look for the context setting keywords, that character of the individual and everything. Take an overview. What is the systemic issue that is there? Because this systemic issue is very important. Okay. For example, in that earlier case study in which you have noticed some serious lacuna and something, what you will write in terms of way forward, what you will write? You will be going ahead with the report and everything? Yes. So if your answer stops just right there, then also, you are not addressing the real issue. The real issue was that internal risk management practice was rather poor. Those two junior engineers were fooling you for quite some time, and there was no mechanism that was put in place to ensure to verify their reports. That is the systemic flaw that is there, and you must address that while you are writing a course of action, that in long term, this is what you must aim at. Understood? So if you are just stopping your answer just right there, that yes, I will prepare the report, then again, you are not addressing all the aspect of the question. Understood? So there, the systemic issue must be identified and must be addressed. Understood? Take care of the time limit, not word limit, and don't take illegal short-term options. Something that is plainly illegal, you should not take that option. That is something that all of you must understand. That because there will always be grave consequence, no matter how tempting they are. That the old lady has come, otherwise she will die. Something like that. I mean, it depends on the context actually. So it may be tempting to take some short-term measures. Don't take those short-term measures. That is what I'm saying. And be argumentative, be persuasive and assertive while you are writing. The case studies. Understood? So that is what we should understand when we are just reading the case study. We should read that very, very carefully. Now, how we should go about the introduction. What should be the kind of introduction that should be there while we are writing the case study? So either we can just simply identify the stakeholders that are there. Who are the stakeholders in the case studies. Now, identifying stakeholders can help you in a way that now you will be considering the case study from multiple perspectives. So this is important in the case studies when there are multiple stakeholders. Okay, but it may not be the case always that there are multiple stakeholders. You take the example of 2017 case study of the interview wala thing. So in that case also, not many stakeholders are there. I mean, you are there, your family is there, relative is there, but you cannot say, I mean, the society is also there. In a way, the future, the nation will miss a future smart bureaucrat, something like that, and the organization, the DM, you will become a DM, the district is also there as stakeholder. I mean, you are just being creative about it. Extended family is also there, something like that. So point is that you should write stakeholders when there are many stakeholders to write. And usually in corporate governance case studies, there will always be stakeholders to write. Because some stakeholders will always come to the structure, shareholders, consumers and everything. So in corporate governance case study, stakeholder perspective is important because there will be stakeholders, always many stakeholders, but not always. So that is important. Another part is you can start with a dilemma. What is the prime dilemma that is this? For example, in this case study of the interview wala thing, the case study involves, because the dilemma was not asked, so the case study involves the dilemma between doing your duty and saving someone's life. So you can straight away start with the dilemma, or you can straight away just start with the underlying ethical issue that is there in the entire case study. This case study highlights the failure of law and order, something like that. So basically, that can be the start of the introduction, but you need to see the star mark is there because at times UPSC asks ethical issue and ethical dilemma in the options itself, A, B, C, D, the questions that are there. So if that is there, then you cannot start your case study with that. That is what you need to see. Understood? And then you can identify the core problem at times. Suppose any systemic issues there on work culture, something like that, this organization, this case study is reflective of systemic issues with respect to work culture, like that. So that also you can highlight. I mean, the core problem. What is the ultimate fundamental core problem? That also you can highlight. You can also write value premises, principal premises, on what basis you will be making the decision. So the value and principal premises also you can talk about. And also you can discuss the duty and responsibility, that what is your immediate, for example, and any law and order situation is there, and that law and order situation, the protesters are there and everything, crowd management issues are there. Then you may start that as an SP, your primary duty is to maintain law and order. So, I mean, to ensure that the writ of the law is there. So basically, you are telling the examiner upfront that this is what you are going to do. This is your chief objective that is there, and everything will guide your further decision will be guided by this consideration only, that your immediate response is to ensure law and order. Understood? So duty and responsibility. Legal context at times, the case study may be framed with respect to RTI, something you may be knowing some legal sections of them. So you can start with legal section. Judicial context is also important. Privacy, right to privacy, some case studies there. Then you can start with Puttaswamy judgment and everything. Okay. Apart from that, I will request you to go through DPSP and fundamental duties because they also provide great context, great introduction. Article 48A you can involve with respect to environmental aspect, Article 51 with respect to international peace, so any case study on war and everything, you can talk about Article 51, Article 47 living standards. So basically that is what. So you can go through the DPSP and you can use that in terms of introduction. I will request you that out of 6 case studies, at least 2 case studies should start from this, like DPSP, some part of constitution. It will be very, very helpful to you when you are starting the case study. Understood? And also, if the case study is quite long, you can simply summarize and make an overview of that case study. If it is too long case study, I will not recommend that, because if you do that, you are actually repeating so many things. But I mean, that is one of the way you can adopt that. But usually I will not recommend. Usually I will recommend this. Context, legal judicial context, I will recommend that. Stakeholder, I will definitely recommend, at least in corporate governance case study, 1 or 2, you start from there. If ethical issue, ethical dilemma is not asked in the ABCD question, then that can also make the introduction. Introduction, you should not write a very lengthy introduction, because case study itself is quite lengthy. Okay, so that is what you need to understand. So now all of you have understood that how different type of introductions can be there. All of you have understood? Introductions are important. Yes, now you understood. And how we can use different type of introduction. So please you, write that, and then we will discuss something else. From where? You want to note? From start only? And these are the examples only what you will do by noting that. If you want, you can note. Oh, start only? Oh, yes, this you should note. The dilemma is there. It is actually a case of dilemma, whether to go for interview and whether to save someone's life. Dilemma. Value premise also you can start with. Value premise, all of you understand, and these are the value premise on which, just like preamble is there. On that basis, entire constitution has been written. Okay, just like that. Understood? Understood? Done? No Pragati, because constitutional morality will guide you. No? You are not giving a judgment. You are telling this is what our constitution wants, and you would like to follow that while you are making the answer. Done? Not required. All these things are not required. Not required, na? What you will do? This is important. Done? Done? Understood everything? Different type of introduction? All of you understood? I think 7-8 type of introductions are there, and you only have 6 case studies. So you can write different type of introduction actually. At least try to include constitutional perspective and stakeholder perspective. These are good ways to start. Done? Okay. So what should be your course of action? Okay. So one thing we have already discussed, that action should be legal, ethical, and effective. We have discussed that again and again. Yes, it should not be just legal, ethical, but also effective. Okay? And you should not give idealistic solution, like either you are aligning with development only or you are aligning with environment only. I mean, many of you think that you have to align with tribals, otherwise how will you sound ethical? It is not the case, because you have to balance. Ultimately, you will be making them, you will be displacing them only ultimately. So you need to be very conscious of what you are thinking, emotional intelligent. So idealistic solution should not be there, Don't be vague and write mere keywords like I will persuade the villagers for this. Tell specifically how. You will strive for women empowerment. Tell specifically how. The specific keywords and specific aspects are required. And then ethical reasoning is more important, that we have discussed, not just the options, merit, demerits, reasoning. Why exactly you are doing it, including, addressing the demerit of the chosen course of action, that why that demerit is acceptable to you. So in the interview case, why it is acceptable to you that you may not be allowed to take the interview by the UPSC. Because if you are not addressing that, then it will be problematic only. Understood? And try to be innovative in terms of your solution. Everything? Okay, so now the certain tests that are there that you can follow, that whether what my decision is, whether it is the good enough decision or not. Okay, so one test is common good test. Okay, so what is common good? That belong to everyone ultimately. Talk about environment, you talk about public safety, health, education. So if something that advances common good, then this is something that we should believe that yes, this is the right thing to do, because ultimately that will benefit everyone. Same case. The perspective is this, the societal institutions are also example of that. If suppose something is actually, the decision is a very humongous decision in a way that it will have set precedent for, let's say, marriage as an institution or family as an institution, then again you are impacting common good of the society. Understood or not? So your perspective on common good has to be wider. It should be about the social institutions, the police, court, military, everything, ecosystem, technology, everything. So basically, common good is something that you should try to satisfy, that we are doing that for common good because everyone will get benefited by that. Understood or not? So ecosystem, we strive for common good, technology, no. Understood or not? Then choice test, ultimately the people, when you are making decision for them, it is a bit difficult. I mean, it is a bit different than what if they make that decision themselves. Okay, so that is what you need to understand, that are the people affected by this decision, are they able to make their own choice? Basically, if you are managing disaster, then the people for whom you are taking the decision that how they should be addressed during the disaster management, since they cannot take decision and you are taking the decision on their behalf, so that actually is a significant test for you, that what they will think. If they were to participate in this decision making, then what they will think of the decision, what they will actually advise you. And whether that person, they will choose differently if they have this additional information that you are having because you are a bureaucrat. How then they will decide, how then they will react. Understood or not? So basically it is just asking you to understand other stakeholders' perspective, that what are their perspectives are, how they will react when they actually have full information. For example, in this case, someone who was your friend, who has given all those sanctions. Understood? So when you are taking that decision, and then perhaps you can write that line that perhaps if he was there in your place, then he will also do the same thing, in a way that he will appreciate that you are standing. I mean, the friendship is not the friendship of that you are helping each other in such manner. You are friend with each other because you like each other professionally in a way. So that is what perhaps he will understand when you take the decision, that you took the decision for the betterment of the society or for some right reasons. Okay, so that is what you can expect from him in terms of that. So that is how you can address the friendship part. So basically, this is from the perspective of other when you are making that decision, that what decision they will make, if they have additional information or simply if they were to participate in that decision making. Understood? And then once you have decided that this is what I will be doing, then defensive, whether you will be able to defend that action or not based on any ethical principle, moral theory. It can be the universal test like categorical imperative, that whether if we can make it a universal law. It can be the consequence like utilitarian perspective, that what should be the consequence of this on different individuals, and whether it will be causing more harm than good or not. Understood? Virtue ethics, that what kind of person it will make you if you are doing that. If you are suppose seeking transfer, running away, it will make you coward. So mirror test, what kind of person you admire and you want to be. So certainly I don't want to be the person in that case, interview case. I don't want to be the person, who will later say that I couldn't save a life even when I could save a life. So that is something that is not the kind of person I want to be. So that can be your defense, that this thing will not go below my conscience will not permit me. So mirror test is something that you can write in terms of what your image will be in your eyes, and then publicity test, basically whatever you are doing, will you be comfortable in telling that to your family? Basically, if suppose you are an SP and some rape cases there involving a prominent politician, and you are asked to hush the report so that politician does not get convicted, then, and if you have a daughter at home, will you be comfortable in telling about that decision to your daughter, to your wife, that perhaps when you had the chance of making an environment safer for women, you did not do your bit, you did not do your duty? Will you be able to tell that to your family member, that you made a criminal go scot-free because of your pressure, or because you wanted better posting, something like that? So that is what you can write, that this is something that you cannot tell to your family, because that is a legacy you don't want to create in your family. That is not the kind of role model that you want to be in your family, that your children will learn this value from you, that you are potentially making a rapist go scot-free because of the shoddy work that you have done. Okay, so that is what, the publicity test. The mirror test is about you, that what is the kind of person. Publicity test is about with respect to family. From corporate organization angle, it is about the corporate character, basically the corporate image, that this is the values, this is the premise, this is the principle this organization stands for. Tata stands for this, Tesla stands for this. For example, Elon Musk does not believe in copyrights, does not believe in IPR and everything. Okay, so I mean, he says that they are for the weak. So that is what they stand for. Okay, so perhaps they will not do it. So that is very important, that what do you stand for. Okay, so in organization also you can write that perspective, that what kind of organization you want to become, what kind of legacy you want to leave, what kind of image you want to create in the eyes of your customer and every stakeholder. Understood? So that is a test that is there. Then right test, entitlements, whether or not you are fulfilling entitlement of the people in terms of consumers, animal rights, human rights, everything, that they are entitled to do something, and whether or not you are violating them or not. Understood? And a justice, whether, I mean, you will take the same decision if you have will of ignorance. Basically, this is the test of whether you are being fair to everyone or not, whether you are being biased or not. Because in that case, commissioner, if he is your friend, simply you can write that by following will of ignorance, that will not be the consideration when you are making that report, because I mean, you have to be fair when you are taking that decision. So you can use that will of ignorance argument in the context of commissioner. Understood? Understood? And you have to see, is this a fair distribution of benefit and burden? Basically, you have to see whether what you are doing is fair or not. Then profession, at times you can be doctor, at times you can be engineer, at times you can be media personnel. I mean, you can belong to any profession, so you have to follow the ethical standards of that profession also. Okay, so that is what you can argue, that whether it is aligning with that code of conduct, ethical guidelines, in terms of organization, whether it is aligning with the organization culture, policies, basically the corporate governance. Okay, so in the case of NGOs, certain other keywords were there. So with respect to that, so organizational perspective, professional perspective, individual perspective, ethical framework perspective, from different perspective, you need to test only. Then this is a reversibility test. I mean, would it be acceptable if the roles were reversed? If suppose you were the victim of the road accident and your friend is going to the interview, how would you feel if that person attended the interview leaving you to die? Understood? So how would you feel? That is the reversibility test that you can talk about. Golden rule is the same test, that is basically the same thing, that we would like other people to behave with us just we would behave with them. Okay, the same thing, the words are only different. Reversibility test or golden rule. Then role model test, what kind of role model you want to become in the society, because when you are in position of power, you are actually a role model for so many people. So what kind of legacy you also want to create to other. Earlier we discussed about role model only with respect to family. Here we are enlarging that with respect to the organization also, because people look up to the district magistrate, people look up to the SP, people look up to the government servant, Then conscience, ultimately, whether can you live with your choice? Understood or not? Ultimately, whether you can live with your choice or not. That is very important. In the case of whistleblowing, in the case of everything, that's how you can write that I will not be able to live with a choice if I have to stay silent. Understood or not? So this is what, I mean, different tests are there, and you can use them while you are justifying your course of action, that this is what, justifies that. Understood? And some of the argument is there, the common good argument that you can use, that what is ethical is what advances common good. I should say the good of the individual, common good, are actually inseparable. The same thing, the good of the individual and society are actually together. So basically, these are argument for common good. Similarly, certain arguments are there that you can use. Suppose in case study you are witnessing some wrong thing, you are the good person, but you are not speaking against it. And this is the argument that you can use, that world suffers a lot, not because of the violence of bad people, but because of silence of good people. In the case of whistleblowing also, you can use that. In the same case study, executive engineer, you can use that perhaps it will be criminal to remain silent, because you will be abating the crime by that. Understood? And then time is always right to do what is right. That also you can quote when someone is asking you to go slow, just like in that inquiry, that this is the right time to do because what you want to do is right only. Then wrong is wrong even if everyone is doing it, right is right even if no one is doing it. You can use this argument when superiors are telling you that this is what, that it chalta hai. Everyone is doing that, so you also do it and you will be rewarded for that also. And that is the argument that you will right, that wrong is wrong even if everyone is doing it, and right is right even if only I am doing it. Okay, so that is the argument. To see what is right and not do it is the worst form of cowardice. That is a similar thing that we have just discussed. Okay, that we have to speak against injustice. Shelf life of lie is very small. So suppose you are being asked that you take some shortcut in terms of take some unethical step, and that is what you need to write, that shelf life of lie is very small. Ultimately truth will come out, and then you will have bigger problem to deal with. For example, the Posh case and everything, there you can talk about the shelf life law is very small. You believe in judiciary, ultimately the truth will come out and I will be declared innocent only. Okay, so, and I have full faith in judiciary. So that is what you can write. in terms of corporate governance, if they are doing something bad in terms of reducing cost or anything, that also you can write. The shelf life is very small. Ultimately, truth will come out, and then it will betray the trust of customers, credibility of the organization, and it will be very hard to gain that back because that has been earned over the period of years. We should not ruin that just for some momentary comfort. So shelf life of lie is very small. Understood? Very, very important argument that you should use. Then humans are end in themselves. We have used that. We know. Then the same golden rule principle that is there. Don't do unto others what everything. Understood? And then I request you to go through all these approaches, their merits and demerits, because their merits and demerits, you will be using them as part of your merits and demerits only. And also go through the Gandhian 7 sins, go through the conduct rules, go through the quotations that we have seen, and you use them while you are justifying your course of action. Very, very important. And then, of course, use a lot of common sense while you are writing the answer. Lot of common sense is required. Understood? Understood or not? Okay, so this is how we should go about the decision making in the body part. In conclusion, it should be about systemic issues, that you are addressing the systemic issues, providing some long-term solutions, and in case it requires, you are projecting your vision with respect to the issue at hand, suppose migration, environment, whistleblowing, something like that. So you may be talking about your vision also in case you have a space and something like that. So that is what conclusion is all about. It is mostly about systemic issues and your optimistic vision and some important keywords that you would like to write as part of futuristic solutions. Understood? So that is what conclusion is all about. Now all of you understand introduction. All of you understand body part, basically the argument, how we should go about it, and the conclusion part. Yes? So that is what it is there. So now you can note it. From where? Any part that you could not understand? Anything? From where? Here? Introduction, this was done? Huh? From here only? Yes, from here only. Injustice anywhere, threat to justice everywhere. Yes, you can quote that also. Yes, you can quote that also. Definitely you can quote that also. Done? I will discuss that body in tomorrow's paper. Tomorrow we will have same test, and then we'll discuss that. I will discuss definitely. 4:30 to 5:30, same thing. And from 5:30 onward, discussion. Done? You understand common good now? All these institutions are also common good. Okay, the justice system, judiciary, because everyone gets benefited. Suppose police become corrupt in general, then everyone will suffer. Suppose judiciary become corrupt, everyone will suffer. So they are common good. So if you are a judge and you are taking a decision, you must look at the legacy you are creating as judiciary. Okay, that is what you can argue. Section A, section B, I will discuss later what you should go about first. Pragati. Done? Lot of many things are overlapping, so don't worry. I'm just giving you different keywords to write because you need to write in 6 questions. Done? They will be part of your justification basically, whatever things are there. The quotation you should definitely write in reasoning quotations. Understood? Done? Done? I will discuss more about conclusion through test. Okay, so I think that will be it in today's class. Anything that you could not understand in today's session? Anything that you could not understand in today's session? Basically case study part. Introduction, different types are there. Don't spend too much time on introduction. Again, I am telling you, okay, because case studies are quite long. Don't focus too much on merit, demerit. Okay, 5 are more than sufficient. Value promise, you write heading of value promise for taking decision, you write the principle like social justice, economic justice, whatever the specific values that are there. For example, in the case of interview, saving someone's life, compassion, social capital, those are the keywords that are there. Anything else? Were you able to understand the demerits part? The demerits you need to address. Okay, and also the systemic issues also, that everything in the core part should be addressed. Understood? Anything else? So tomorrow we will have the test at 4:30 to 5:30, and 5:30 onwards we will discuss. Okay? Okay then, bye-bye.